Hello, I'm Lucinda Harmon, aka The Growth Catalyst. Today we are discussing storytelling and sales. It's not something I ever thought I ever would teach, mentor on, and I didn't actually think it was that powerful until I really got into it and I saw the power of utilizing it myself in the sales field. So as we always do, let's start off with two quotes for today. Stories are a communal currency of humanity. Stories are a communal currency of humanity. That's the first quote. I like that quote a lot. And the second one is, there isn't a stronger connection between people than in storytelling. There isn't a stronger connection between people than storytelling. This is what it does, storytelling. Now, we're going to start. What is it all about, this storytelling and sales? And then I'm going to give you an idea of how to. Now, remember, this is a workshop and we're only doing a short version and a video for YouTube. So this is something that I normally would train, teach, mentor on for many hours and even take it beyond then and help sales professionals how to perfect their pitches, how to work it into their emails that they're sending out, whatever they're doing, but how to bring it into their sales and use it successfully. And I can tell you, I've watched people utilize this, and within weeks, there have been results. So what we know about storytelling, it engages customers on an emotional level. We're emotional beings. And so we need something in sales that's going to touch on that emotional factor, the heart of the people. And this is why it is so profound. The other part is that the message then becomes more memorable and relatable. Now, I remember doing my TED talk, and they're always saying, make sure your message is memorable and everlasting. When you've left the stage, it carries on into eternity. And the same is with every story that we tell in this world. We're leaving behind something. People are going to forget what you said, but they're not going to forget the stories. That's the brilliant part of it. And relatable, we will actually deal again with what is relatable in this later on when I do the how-to. So hang on to that relatable part for now. It illustrates the benefits in a compelling way. Now, this you really want to be able to do, because so often it's so difficult. You sit with a complicated product or service and you don't know how to really put it across. The beauty is, as soon as you bring in a story and you use a client you've worked with and a solution you came up with, study the person goes, oh, now I've got it. That now simplifies and makes it easier. So it's going to simplify anything complex. And what a story does is it builds trust and connection. And that is what you want. You want to build up long-lasting relationships. And the other part is that it's narratives to convey value about your product and service. So it's narratives, conversations, the stories themselves must convey the value on your product and service. And that is the actual vehicle that we're using, storytelling, to magnify your product and your service. So how do we do this thing called storytelling? Well, to tell you in all truth, I had lived for many years, probably my first 20 years in sales, I had a back pocket box. And in that little back pocket was little stories. But what I did is I wrote comments as I went. If you recall, I was seeing clients from anything from 11 to 21 clients a day. I had a lot of stories and interesting ones, things that happened. Interesting. I would remark or note interesting factors that were happening in the industry. So I was in medical for most of my time in sales at that time. And so I would note things that were changing. I would also note things that were happening on the sport or in the world or whatever it was. I was always noting things. Every day I would make some notes. And what stood out in my day, the times that I really had a difficult sale, maybe where I felt that I didn't do well, and I would actually note them down and even try and thread in some sort of story into that. And there are great sales. I always used my great sales and wins, and I used to use those as stories. How I came up with a solution, or I picked up the ball because my opposition dropped it, and what did I do, and what it meant to that client, and how their life changed, what that solution gave them, how it broadened out their business in a whole new way they never thought was possible. And this is how often I built so much of my sales content before I went out. And as I said, I prepare a lot. I always prepare, and I train people on preparing and planning and practice, because that's how you perfect this game that we're in. So what's really important in the sales as well is that it's relatable, like I was saying earlier. If the client you're in front of doesn't relate to your story, you've got a huge problem. If I'm sitting and I'm thinking about cupcakes, these cute little cupcakes that I saw at some farm stall, and I'm going to go and see a farmer about a product. If his wife's not somehow in this game, or if you don't know that he likes baking, whatever, you really are kind of like totally off giving him a story. He'll probably look at you like, what the heck? And now there's going to be this disconnect, and he's going to think that you don't take him seriously. It's really important that you're matching your stories well. Now, I used a bizarre example, but I think you might have the idea on that. It's got to be of value. It's got to give them something of value. I mean, don't just tell a story because I have told you it's a good idea, so you're just going to take any story out there. It's got to add value to their lives. It's got to show them how this particular medical device really added life and value to this particular customer I had, and then what happened after that. And then this person goes, wow, I hadn't thought about that. I could actually implement that myself in my business, and I could actually see quite a big turnover. The other part is, is it fit for your client? Like relatable. Does it fit? Is it a match? Does it do this, or is it doing this? And then the person is going, I wish this person would just leave our room. And you can see them rolling their eyes, they're looking up and getting disturbed and getting their phones, and they start doing a whole lot of things because you've completely, it's like the hit and miss, the bullseye's here, and you've gone somewhere off in that direction. So the context, the content is very critical. Always focus on that. The content. Who are the characters in this? You've got to have characters. You just can't say just anybody and somebody. You've got to call it Joe. For the sake of this particular story, it's Joe Soap and it's Anna, whatever. And these two people, this is what happened. And inside there's got to be conflict or a problem that you're going to now get beyond. What is the excitement of having a perfect life and nothing is wrong? If you can't solve anything, then why are you selling a product and service? There's got to be something to resolve or give a solution on. And then what does that change look like? What was that change, and how did it look? And what was that effect it had on that customer and their business that you're going to share? And then very important, you've got a conclusion with a call to action. A conclusion where you bring the whole thing together, and a call to action. Now, I'm going to give an example of an insurance broker that I was training their sales, their insurance sales force at that time. And I really got them into the storytelling, a really, really great session. And it got very emotional for a lot of them, because now they realized that they were changing lives. They had a story, some of them had stories, and quite a few, more than not, where people died or they became paralyzed or something happened, and they should have taken a policy the weeks before that this broker had been to them, and they didn't listen, or they postponed, or they procrastinated, and something major happened and they regretted it the whole of their life, or their family suffered, or they died and left nothing over their families. Now, this story is powerful. And when they finished that story, they all had tears running down their cheeks. And I said, you've got to practice it, because you don't really want to cry in front of all your clients. Sometimes emotion works, but mostly it's good to try and keep some sort of check. Do show that you're caring and the effect it had. But obviously sobbing with tissues, and you try to sell a product or service, it might not go according to plan. So really important to practice these. And then that call to action. I don't want you to end up where Joe ended up, or Joe's family ended up, or whatever. If you sign today, it just means that you're going to go to bed tonight not thinking about that story of so-and-so and what happened to him and left his family in that predicament. You can live with more peace. You can know that when you're on the road and you're traveling or whatever, you don't have that horrible dark cloud over you. So I'm going to ask you, I would be not showing my care, my concern, my professionalism if I didn't tell you how important it was for you to sign this document today. So there you've concluded, taken the person through a story, a conclusion, a call to action, and hopefully that person does and doesn't end up becoming the next story that you're going to use, that they also missed the bus and then they ended up in a very, very bad predicament. And that is a very good one. The insurance brokers gave me really great stories to use always in the sales, especially in mentoring, any of their work that I do. Your stories need to always speak to the client. And this is so important. It's like I was saying about the farmer. You can't be talking baker conversation to the farmer. It has to speak to that particular client. If I go in and I want to speak to a surgeon, I can't be talking to a surgeon the same way I'm talking to a hospital manager. You've got to make sure that we're having the right conversation with the right people. And the other part is the situation. You've got to be able, like I always say, read the room. You've got to be able to know if it's a good time or not a good time to tell the story. Next thing you go in is someone's just died and you go and try and land that story, you're going to be in hot water. So you've got to be able to monitor, assess where you're at before you actually even tell a story. Like check where the person's at, where their mindset, their emotional state is at before you go there. And you've got to provide the need and the solution. You've got to be able to find out what their need is, and then you've got to provide the solution. So it's got to speak to the client, you've got to be able to assess the situation, you've got to speak to their need, and you've got to provide a solution. Those 4 parts. I'll put them in the below in the description, in the content part that you'll actually be able to go back to. It's also, storytelling is important because it engages, like I said, and it connects with emotive words. Now go and research emotive words. It's really important to go and have a look. And even we've got this wonderful thing called artificial intelligence and ChatGPT. Go take what you have, whatever product service you have, and go and ask like a ChatGPT, whoever you use, and ask it to put it in emotive words, whatever you're going to sell, and watch what it does with what you would normally sell. Say you've got a pitch, whatever you have, a product, a conversation you want to have, and check and see how it changes it and how it makes it way more gripping, way more engaging, and way more attractive to the person either listening or in front of you. I use a lot of emotive words that I put into my work, but I've been doing this for 35 years, and I certainly always make sure when I go through something not to make it bland and boring, otherwise people are going to go, oh, she's leaving. You don't want when she's leaving. You want them to be saying, oh my word, this is amazing. And those emotive words actually also help you with your call to action. They're like, I must take action now. So remember, you're taking the client of yours on a journey. It's about them. It's not about you. And the story might be somebody else, but it's because you're relating it to them. And it's very important. It's about them. It's about your client, and it's not about you. And that is something that took me quite a long time to realize. Is often we get very trapped up in ourselves and the desperation, the stress about sales, and we forget the most important person is the client, because we need that business and that long-term relationship. Then our sales is going to flow. So I hope that really has made a lot of sense to you about the importance of storytelling in sales, how it creates strong connections between people. It really is the essence of taking your sales from one level up into the next level and really being a very successful salesperson. I never underestimate the power of storytelling in sales, and I generously give it out when I train and coach on this. Give me a shout if you need one of those sessions. I'll leave my website details straight below in the content below. So please do share these messages, share my sessions really generously to help other sales professionals out there. Give some comments where you're at. What do you think about storytelling and sales? Have you used it before? And if you haven't, are you going to start? Those are the kind of questions. I'd love to hear that feedback from you. And next week, something I touched on when I was writing my book, Go Shake the Trees. Very importantly, what I wrote about in there was about authentic sales. It's something that really I realized was something that was missing often in the sales profession was authentic sales, because salespeople believe that when they join a company, they must be almost like rigid and be like the company and speak like the company and speak like the brand. Yes, you represent it, but more than you can imagine, your customer wants you, and they're buying from you, and they don't want that other plastic, how they see as cheesy, they might see as false and fake, and they might not trust you. So as much as you are carrying a brand, you are your brand, you need to remember to be authentic. And that is what we're going to be doing next week. I'll be taking you through authentic sales. Until then, as I said, do share, put the comments below, your likes, and I will see you next week. And in the interim, in the meantime, let's just go and shake the trees.